And Paul Honor.
Intro or something, or we just look like dorks?
We're live. We're in.
We're live.
What's up, everybody?
Hey, man, how you doing?
As we just sit here picking our nose because we don't know we're live.
Go ahead and introduce everything, Paul.
Hey, y'all, this is Road Less Traveled, episode number 8. We're excited to have a special guest, Scott Waters, with us. We're going to be talking about music, of course, and we're going to be talking about the creative process of creating and God's presence in that and how we use this stuff to glorify the Lord. So we're really excited about today's show, and we're going to start off with our normal segment with sharing our CDs. So I'm going to put Bryan up there. Hey, Bryan.
How's it going? Hey, everybody. Man. Welcome back to another episode. We love doing these things, but trying to get everything organized. I've got the 3 CDs that I've selected today. Two are two of my favorite female vocalists. And I think you say her name, Dawn Michelle from Fireflight.
Oh, Firelight. Yeah, Firelight.
I love their music because somebody went through some trials like I'm going through, and their music just is really uplifting and encouraging to stay the course and keep fighting. So I love her vocals are so powerful. So that's one, Fireflight. And they've got so many good ones. But then I teeter back and forth to know if she's my favorite or if Lacey Sturm from Flyleaf. Now I bought this and it did not have the front cover, but this is their self-titled first album. And this thing's a masterpiece in my mind. There's not a bad song on her. And if you like her, you know that her vocals are just spectacular, and she puts her heart and soul into everything she sings and writes. And then Guardian. And I got this CD for free from I had a friend that was a DJ at WJQ 99.3, and it's Guardian Buzz. And I went to a concert, and they're promoting it before it even came out. And Jamie Rowe, I held it up like this, and he goes, "Hey, where'd you get that from?" And I took it back like he's going to steal it from me. And he goes, "No, it's okay, dude. Just hand it to me." So I handed it to him. And I don't know where this guy got it, but here's our CD. And so then afterwards, I got it all autographed from everybody. So
nice.
It was different than some of their stuff, but I really like this album.
It was definitely an attempt at grunge. It was an attempt at grunge, which was popular at the time.
Yep. And there's a lot of encouraging things in here to do. This old man, is about your old life is always coming back up to try and get you. And an attack of the flesh and all that kind of stuff. So that's it for now. I think.
What do you got going on music wise, man? Don't you got some we are Resolute news?
Well, our guest is pretty influential in what we're doing, right, Scott?
Sure. I definitely am.
This was our first album, and Scott, you did the layout on this too, right?
Yep, I think I did the layout on all your covers, all your albums.
Oh yeah, and you came up with this logo, and John and I were like, "Oh yeah." So we really love that. And now a lot of our fans call us War. We are Resolute. So that's pretty cool. So yeah, this is a really cool looking. I mean, when it first came, we were like, holy crap, we've got an album. And look how good it came out. And the pictures, everything. And Scott put some stuff on the wall inside the tunnel. Do you have any comments, Scott, about
Is that someone related to you on the cover? I can't remember who it was. Is that your daughter?
No, a friend of mine at church.
Okay.
It's her daughter, their daughter, and I had to wait 36 and a half minutes to get permission because they were separated, and she had to call her husband and make sure it was okay because it was just family pictures. And I was like, this was made for a CD cover. Look how she's standing like all rock and rolly and stuff.
Yeah.
So there's that one. And then God blessed us with a second album, which, after having one, you're thankful, everything's cool, but you're like, we'll never be able to make another one. And then Only Human came. And this is my daughter, Lydia. I just had her take a bite of the apple. And my wife, she was alive at the time, obvious, gave me this headband, or that's not a bandana, it's a silk thingamabob, and we just use it as a blindfold.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's kind of like
a silk scarf, right?
What's that?
It's a scarf or a cashmere.
Yeah, something like that all men should know.
Yeah. I only know that because I went to a wedding this past weekend and my wife was wearing a cashmere, and I said, "What is that?" It's a cashmere. Now I know.
Scott, you put the snake on here for me and did a really good job.
Thanks. Yep, I did.
So my daughter was not hurt in the making of this album.
Exactly.
And then we get triple blessed, and we get Fallen Angel to come out. And these last two, I can't open it up because of the last two, they're still cellophane, whatever. But I made a mistake, Scott. I wish I could have. On my computer, this looked really big. Then I opened it up, and I should have had that on the whole left side. So that's not Scott Waters' fault. That's mine.
We had a little bit. We had a little bit of a miscommunication on that album too, which made it a little different than what you were originally expecting as well, right?
Yeah,
you weren't available at the time, and I was dealing directly with your drummer, and the cover and the back cover are actually switched.
Yeah, the CD cover was supposed to be similar to this character here, and oh well, maybe if I can open it up later or something in the interview. But anyway, so our new one coming out, which you can see right here in the background. How do you say his name? Rafael Tavares Grip. Did I say it right? He for $300, I was only going to get 4 T-shirt ideas. Well, then he gave me another one. There was a little logo in the bottom of the one, because he put them on the lyrics on the back for Thunder of God and what's the other one? But anyway, the other one, whatever it is. I just woke up about a half an hour ago, but it really came out good. And there was this little circle logo. I said, I really like that. And about 20 minutes later, because he disappeared, he said I could have that for free. So for $300, I got 5 different logos, and we got all the shirts up on what's it called? anchormerchandising.com.
Yep.
So, and all of our songs are done. Matter of fact, I just got a message from Bill from Rocks Records, and he said that Garrett can hold the music for now. We'll start on it next month and release in February. So there's the official Rocks Records from the man himself. So we're going to have a February release. I'm so excited because even Dale, I sent some songs to him because he doesn't usually get to hear it, and he's been really busy lately, touring in Brazil with Petra and all that. I know that he's like a kid in a candy store, but Dale messaged me back and said, fellas, I think this is our best group of songs to date. So I know that you hear other people like probably Michael Sweet saying, this is our best album ever. Well, this might be our best album ever for real. So I'm really looking forward to hearing what people say, because I have a group of people, like 5 or 6 that I always send stuff to. And if you're watching Joshua Reynolds, you're one of them. And they'll let me know, hey, there's too much bass here, or hey, I really like this song, or whatever. So if these certain people approve it, then we feel pretty confident to release it. So that's all I have for now.
All right, cool, man. All right, so slide this over here. And so I got 3 today. I'm going to start off with Randy Rose. This was a Kickstarter he did, and took a long time for him to get it out. There was lots of things that came against him. We're talking about, the Lord in the process, and a lot of things happened while this was being made, but he finally got it out, and it was well worth the wait. And if you're friends with Randy Rose on Facebook and you're not anymore, all of a sudden he got hacked. And so go find him and give him a new friend request, because he's rebuilding from his old account. But this was a really good, if you like doomy, darker metal, that one's a really good one. These guys here, Paradox, these guys are out of Texas.
Yep.
And it's just a really good, clean metal sound. It's got that 80s sound to it, and I just really, really dig them. I haven't known much about them. You got one of those? Oh, Randy Rose, yeah. And I think Randy and Roger Rose are working on Mad at the World right now. They're getting ready.
They sure are.
To release. So that's exciting news.
Matter of fact, I just worked on 2 Mad at the World reissues too.
Oh, have you? Awesome.
Yeah.
That's excellent stuff. And then Martin and Layton's Roxology. Let me get in there without the glare. There we go. This is Hymns done in a metal version, man, and it's so good. And these guys are just masters of music, of guitar. And so that's the stuff I've been rocking to this past week and really enjoying. So
do you have the first 2 Paradox?
I think I have one of them.
Because the first 2, they're black and white covers. They're both superb. Not that the one you have isn't good. It's just the first 2 have a different lineup, so they're different, little different. Unfortunately, they were a great band. I don't know if you remember Paradox from the 80s or not. They were one of those bands who they had offers from all these big labels. I mean, they were almost on Word, and they had offers from Pure Metal and Intense, all these different labels back in the day. But they also had a couple of mainstream labels offering them labels too, and they just offered them deals, and they kind of had them all laid out on the table, and they were just praying to God, which one should we take? And at that same time period, their guitar player, their second guitar player, got into a car accident and died.
Wow.
And he was pretty much the main songwriter in the band. He was the one who wrote a lot of the songs. So when that happened, all the record labels pulled the contracts from them. So they went from being, having all these contracts to none.
Yeah, to none.
Wow. And back then it was very different than it is today. Record contracts there are very different from back in the 80s. In the 80s, they would have been signed. They would have put him in a studio with a producer and all that kind of stuff. And they would, but it just didn't happen for him, which is unfortunate, because I think that they were a world-class band that just never got the chance to get out there and do their thing. And they have obviously great lyrics too. So
yeah, I mean, I've been listening to that one, and I do have one of the other ones. I'm pretty sure I know I have at least one, and just phenomenal stuff. So yeah,
and then,
one of those
things
that
vocalist can shatter ceilings, man.
Yeah, and it's like, how did I not hear these guys before?
And then the guitar player is, the dude is like an Yngwie prodigy. I mean, he could just shred. So
songwriting is very important. It really makes the identity of the band.
Yep.
Hey Scott,
Scott,
I found that thing. This was supposed to be the front cover of Fallen Angels.
Yes.
Yep.
I'm sorry, my dogs are barking.
They're grounded.
I'm gonna mute myself for a second and shut the door.
Okay.
So anyway, if you didn't see it, since he's muted, there's the CD, and then this front cover, which I designed both, was supposed to be the CD tray, and this was supposed to be the front. Because Bill Bafford's like, that should really be the front. And I'm like, okay. And it kind of was sad when I found out that it didn't work that way, but it's still there. And I've got a banner of the one that's on the CD tray now, so it's all good.
All right. So when Scott comes back, why don't you give him a good intro about all the stuff that he's into and that of, and then we'll have him do his CDs, because I think he's trying to get back in. And they will need to connect their mic before you can add them. All right. So his mic's disconnected.
Yeah, he said he was going to pull that because the dogs are going nuts.
I think we lost his whole device.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, he should be able to get back in like you did, because you had the same thing happen with yours. So while we're waiting for Scott, and our topic today being God, here he is. I got him. Add him to the stage. All right.
Sorry, I went to mute myself and I got kicked out.
All right.
Sorry about that. My the mail lady came to the front door and my dogs were losing their minds. So
So usually I keep the door shut.
It's actually the mail lady, and she's the most awesome mail lady ever.
Okay.
In our neighborhood, we have those big metal boxes. They put everybody's mail in, and you just walk over and get your mail. But because I work for record companies, and I get a lot of records, and it gets hot, obviously, in the desert. I get big boxes like this, full of records. And she's like, I don't want to put your hot records in the mail, so she delivers all my mail to the front door. So, which she doesn't have to do. That's awesome for someone to go out of their way to be friendly like that. So I always make sure and take care of her at Christmas time, and I'll give her drinks and snacks and that kind of stuff, because that's just above and beyond. It's nice when people do that kind of thing.
Somebody did a message or a chat, a comment.
All the dogs here were just barking up a storm also because the Jehovah's Witnesses. So
open up the door, let them have them. Just kidding.
No, open up the door and talk and preach to them a real gospel, because unfortunately the Jehovah's Witnesses believe a fake gospel, which is sad, because they're very devoted, dedicated people. They're very nice people, but unfortunately they're blindsided by the fact that they don't believe in the one true God. They believe in a complete lie. They and the biggest thing is, it's not even just believing that they don't believe Jesus is God. Worse, and that's the thing that Christians always want to pound into them. Well, you don't believe, that's not as important as this. They don't believe that Jesus rose from the dead, and that is the worst thing of all. And you can use their own Bible, which their Bible is very perverted. It's been twisted and torn away. But even their Bible, Jesus said, destroy this temple, and in 3 days I will raise it up. And they just can't get away from it. Point it out to them, they'll give you they'll argue with you, and they'll say, hey, that he was talking about the temple in Jerusalem. No, he wasn't. It was very clear what he's talking about. He was talking about this temple, destroy this temple, and in 3 days I will raise it up. And it was the temple of his body. It was very clear. I mean, you couldn't get any more clear than what Jesus was in that scripture, and that is still in their Bible. So if you present that to them at the door, and you present it to them in a nice way, like if you present it as like you're coming off as a know-it-all, all you're doing is you're going to turn them off. If you come off as like, if you come up and you're like, I have a question. I was reading this in the Bible, and in your Bible, and it says right here, destroy this temple, and in 3 days I'll raise it up. I said, Jesus was talking about his body, and you say that the body was discarded by Jehovah God. How do you square that? They don't have an answer.
Yeah, and good tip is, if you're going to try to talk to them, they will listen to scripture from a King James only, besides their own. But don't try to pull out an ESV or an NIV or something.
Yeah, but even if you read John 1:1 out of the the King James, they will totally dismiss that as being interpreted wrong.
Right, because they go with the grammar thing and why it should be and not, And the other thing is, if you're going to invite them in and pray with them, if you start your prayer with Lord Jehovah, they'll bow their heads and they'll pray along with you. Otherwise, they will not. So I where I live now, I'm up on a ridge in the middle of the woods, and I don't get any visitors here. But when I used to live in a neighborhood, we used to get them, and I'd spend time with them and talk to them, and they're
the nicest people I've never met a nasty Jehovah's Witness. They truly want to serve people. They truly want to serve God. So I mean, I can't fault them for any of that. But it's just a shame, and I even sometimes wonder, God knows our hearts. We don't know their hearts.
Yep.
And even I just wonder, even those that are deceived, are there some that are mixed in there that actually aren't deceived, and and God's going to bring them to Him anyhow because they put their trust in Him, even though their information is wrong? I don't know. That's just something I've always questioned in my own mind, but because God is the ultimate judge, and we certainly aren't. and
that's for
I know
sure.
I know I need His grace more than anything else, because I don't deserve heaven. So
Yep.
I think God's working. I think God's working on people, even those that we disagree with.
Yeah. Yep. And I'll tell you something cool that's happening with it among Muslims that I hear over and over again, is that they're having dreams of Jesus coming to them in their dreams.
I've been hearing that too.
Yeah. And I got books that are written by former Muslims that are believers now, talking about how they came to the Lord, and so man, as Jehovah's Witnesses, anybody that's in a deceptive religion, if their hearts are right towards God, He's going to give them the revelation of the truth. and and that'll be their opportunity to respond to what's right and become.
Well, the Bible says that God is seeking those who worship him in spirit and truth. So what you guys just said, if they're trying to do that and they literally are doing it in spirit and truth, God will reveal himself. I've talked to many atheists and they're like, oh, I already tried the Christian thing. It didn't work. I'm like, nah, you don't try Jesus.
Yeah, Hebrews is clear about that.
Yep. So Scott,
Right. Yeah, sorry.
let's get on to what you do and some of the cool things that you've done for We Are Resolute and other bands. And so this is Scott Waters. Tell us what bands you've been in, and then tell us what you do it for Girder and for Rocks and for yours on No Life Till Metal, right?
Yes, I
Okay.
well, first of all, the bands I was in I was in Ultimatum for 20 years, from 1992 to 2012, and we didn't really break up. We just kind of went on hiatus. Put out 6 albums and an EP and a bunch of demos and all that kind of stuff. And then in 2004, I sang for Vengeance Rising, and we actually changed our name to Once Dead the day of the show. We're supposed to be doing just a reunion show. It was all the original Vengeance Rising guys, and Roger obviously didn't want to take part in it, so they asked me to sing for him, and so I did that. I ended up staying with them for 2 years. After they had so much fun at that show, I ended up doing a bunch of other shows, going to Europe. That was fun. And then I got what I like to call the left foot of fellowship out of the band. In other words, I was kicked out, and they went through two or three other vocalists, and that's the end. That was the end of that. So, and then now I ended up starting my own business. I don't know, 9 years ago. I've been a graphic designer my whole life. I worked for Starline Printing as in their graphics department for 27 years before I retired from there. And then I went and got my business license from the city, and literally driving home from the courthouse with my business license in hand, I call up Matthew Hunt from Retroactive Records, which was one of the labels that Ultimatum was on, and I had done all my own artwork for them and all my own layouts, which they loved because it saved them money because they didn't have to pay someone else to do it. And so I said, hey Matt, I said, just got my business license. I'm a graphic designer. You know me. I said, you know my work. I said, if you need anything, let me know. I'm going to be in business for myself. And he was like, great, you're hired. I need somebody. That literally that driving home. So he was actually so frustrated with the fact that he couldn't find someone to do the work properly for him, and the expense that people were charging him for poor work, that he was ready to shut it down. He was just tired of it. So it was definitely I always said it's a God thing, because literally calling the guy on the way home in the car from getting my license, and he's like, yep, you're hired. So
you must have been like, holy cow.
He's been my biggest customer ever since. I do everything for him. He actually now calls me his project manager, which I don't work for him. I work my business, but I do keep track of, because he's doing so much stuff. I mean, we've literally got like 15, 20 projects just in production right now, being made into vinyl or CD, and then we have another 100 projects literally in a list that I'm working on for him. So he's got a lot of projects coming out. But I also work for, like you said, Rocks Records, and Bill Bafford is the owner of Rocks Records. And Bill Bafford is one of my closest friends, and he considers me his partner in his business. And he also owns No Life to Metal Records, which people consume as mine because of the name. And we did that on purpose because No Life to Metal Records is a mainstream label, and we just saw the backlash that Matt was getting from his non-Christian label, so he wanted them separate. So that's where No Life to Metal Records came from, and Rocks Records. So he owns both. I am just a partner in those. I don't make money from anything. Only thing I make money from is doing the artwork. So yeah. And then I also work for Girder Records and Backbreaker Records, which again, it's Girder is the Christian version, and then Backbreaker is the mainstream version. And then I also do Soundmass in Australia, the Christian label Soundmass.
Wow.
And then I also work for Imperial Records, which I know I'm not pronouncing it right. I can never pronounce it right. From Greece. I've done a few projects for them. And I've also recently done projects for Curb Word Records and Metal Blade and Century Media.
Wow,
So
you do way more than I thought.
that's all I do. I'm literally in my office 8-9 hours a day, and I'm just constantly doing layouts. And it's not even just like I pulled this one here. I don't have the vinyl yet, but here, let me pop the plastic off of it, because I don't, I don't just do metal, even though my company name is No Life for Metal. Like here's a glare. Take it out. Anybody remember Johnny Lee?
Oh yeah, certainly.
Looking for love in all the wrong. Yeah. This
yep.
is. He re-recorded all. He recorded this, I think, is 12 tracks. Yeah, 12 tracks, because the guy has so many top 30 hits that it's ridiculous. So every song that he re-recorded on here is a top 30 hit, with "Looking for Love" being a #1 hit.
Oh wow.
It was huge back in what was that movie called?
Urban Cowboy.
There you go, Urban Cowboy. So yeah, it's not just metal. So this is one that's coming out. It's not even out yet. This is an advance pressing. So actually, if you want, I could share a story about this one. And some. So one of the things that's the hardest to do in graphics is getting everything right. There's so many variables. You got lyrics, and there's just a ton of different things. Well, I did this album cover and this, it's hard to see, I'm sure, on this little screen, but this is actually a partially hand-drawn cover. And if you look at the back, there's the hand-drawn art cover.
Oh,
so, and then from there, I turned it into this, but I colorized it and gave it, but all those dots are, if you look closely, you can still see all those dots in there. And then I created the logo and the layout, and I sent the cover out, and I got it approved by the label, and by everybody approved it, including the copyright owner. And then I did the layout, the whole thing came out, and I get a call from the record label the day he gets the shipment in. He's like, "What happened?" I'm like, "What are you talking about?" He goes, "The cover's wrong." "What do you mean?" He goes, "It says looking for love. It's supposed to be looking for love."
Oh no.
See, it says looking for love on here.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So I had spelled it. I don't know. I'm not a huge country fan. And nobody caught it. We've got proofreaders, we've got an executive producer. Nobody caught it. So it had to be repressed, all because it said looking for love rather than looking for love. So there is a handful of those looking for love copies out there that are now all of a sudden collector's editions.
Yep.
Good luck finding them, but yeah, that kind of stuff drives me up a wall. But it's hard to get when you have so many variables. It's easy to get mess something up, and that's why I sent out proofs, multiple proofs, and unfortunately, in that particular case, nobody caught it.
Wow.
Well, it makes sense, because when you're editing, you're looking for typos and you're thinking of proper English.
Yeah, not only that, but when you're doing artwork, like I was working on this cover, you read things. Once you do something, you just read it like it's right. So I could have spelled looking wrong. I could have put one O or something, because you stared at it for so long. It just
right.
You just read over it, and your mind just sees what's supposed to be there.
Right. Yep.
It's the same thing with authors. That's why authors always have to have proofreaders.
Yes.
Yep.
So yeah, it's no different, because you stare at it in your mind, you know what it's supposed to say, so you just read right over it. Yeah. Anyhow, that's just a story, and that I hate that. I hate mistakes. I'm so embarrassed by them that it literally gives me anxiety, which I can't stand anxiety, but I just don't like making mistakes for my customers. It's embarrassing. So anyhow, that's
so I
story,
got your email or your message. You did tricks, and hopefully I proofed it properly, because I took the time to listen to the song 2 or 3 times each one, to hear if Dale did anything different than I originally had written, and I caught some stuff. So.
Oh, cool.
Yep.
Right
and then
on.
I sent you a bunch of pictures, and you can pick which one. I really like the one of me holding my guitar going, but you decide. I trust you. You've done a really good job on all of our albums so far. So.
Well, actually, I know this is probably not interesting to other people, but there's enough photos that you sent me. I think we could do a cool collage.
Okay.
Maybe like a center spread collage. So anyhow.
All right.
I don't know where you guys want to go from here, but I do have a pile of CDs that I pulled that because you told me to pull some CDs.
Yeah. So yeah, we didn't even do your CD segment. So yeah.
Because we got all excited about everything.
Damascus. I mean, it kind of goes along what we're doing because a lot of these are stuff that I worked on too. But this just came out on Rocks Records. It's a 2 CD set. Damascus, The Road to Damascus, the complete anthology. This is literally everything that this 80s, 90s band recorded.
Oh, wow.
It's prog rock. It's not metal whatsoever. It's kind of along the lines of Genesis, Saga, Kansas, that sort of sound, and they're really, really good at it. Fantastic band. And I can tell you a little story about this band too. This band too was offered a bunch of record contracts, a lot of them by Christian labels. They turned them all down because they considered themselves to be like art rock, and they were very proud that a Christian band, and the labels wanted them to tone down the lyrics. Not so blatant, so they refused and they didn't do it. So they ended up just putting out back then their own cassette tape versions of it, and now 20 years later, the full thing has come out on Rocks Records with all their music, and it's very, very well done, very good stuff. Matter of fact, there's even an album on here. There's even an album on here called "The Turning Tide" that was never released. It was recorded back in the '90s. It says 2024 on the year. That's because it never was released before, so it's kind of a brand new. But yeah, this is fantastic music. I'll show you the because I did the layout on this one, like I said. Like, it is a 2 CD set. There's the inside. You can see a picture of the band. But yeah, I also did the album cover on this one, The Road to Damascus. You can see that
looks really cool.
Yeah,
towards the sun, and and the logos, that's their logo from back in the day. So I didn't change the logo. Anyhow, that's one of my favorites this year. This is another one. This is a reissue that I've been listening to a lot. But this is Follower, Into the Sun. And I should have grabbed the vinyl. It's right there. Maybe I'll go get it for a second. But this is also on Rocks Records. Now, Follower are a hard rock band in the vein of Resurrection Band, Res, some of the harder Petra stuff, White Heart, that kind of vibe. And two of the guys in this band, this is the only album they ever put out. It's kind of an underground legend in Christian music, because two of the guys in this band went on to be big in music, with the guitar, one of the guitar players ending up in White Heart and playing on most of their big albums.
Oh, cool!
And being one of the songwriters, and he also wrote and played on Petra's a few of their records. No Doubt was one. I can't remember the other one, but he was in Petra for a little while.
Nice.
And then the other guy who Kerry Crafton ended up becoming a very well-known producer, and has produced tons of rock and metal bands. As a matter of fact, one of his earliest things he did was, I don't remember the band One Bad Pig. He did the very first one. He did the very first One Bad Pig album, and he's gone on to do tons of mainstream and Christian projects ever since then. So anyhow, this is remixed and remastered. It's going to take me 3 seconds. I'm going to grab this.
All right.
Sorry. Production value. So this is the original album that came out in mid 80s. And nice. the band hated the cover. They took black and white photos for the album cover, and then the label that they were on, which was a mainstream label called Quicksilver, they colorized it and did that to it, and it made it all pastel-y. And to me, if I would have seen this album in the 80s, I would have thought it was some kind of new wave or pop rock album, and it's not. It's a very good hard rock album. I mean, when I say hard rock, I compare it to mainstream bands like Aerosmith, and in the 70s, Aerosmith and Led Zeppelin, that kind of sound. Okay. So anyhow, when Rocks got the permission to do the album, they were like, we have two conditions. One is we want to remix the entire album. We want Rob Caldwell to remaster the entire album, which we use Rob anyhow, and we don't want that album cover. We hate that album cover. It's like, okay. But the problem we had was that cover is kind of iconic, right? People who are into that, deep underground Christian music like that know that cover. But so we had to keep the cover, but do something different. So that's why I ended up with this much darker, much more rock and roll looking cover.
That's way better.
Yeah, it is. Because when you pulled that album up, I'm looking at it thinking, oh, that looks like Europop.
Yeah, it's not good. Yeah. So I got to do the layout on that one too. But I'm not showing these because I did the layouts. I'm showing them because I actually been listening to these a lot, and this is a very good album. And I got to there's the center spread, and then we found all these promo photos that they didn't even use for anything. So I used them throughout the booklet.
Oh, that's cool looking.
Yeah, so there's no one's ever seen a lot of these photos that are in the booklet because they only had to put out the vinyl, and so and there's a couple collages inside with other stuff in it. And anyhow, yeah, if you like I said, Whiteheart or Res Band or Led Zeppelin, The Who, that kind of 70s, 80s hard rock, this is fantastic. Not metal at all. I'm not trying to, so don't get me wrong, but if you like the hard rock stuff, it's good.
I saw Whiteheart six times here in Michigan over the years.
They're great. They were great back in the day.
Oh my word, yeah.
And let's see, what else can I show? How about I just got this one. This is Broken Bones and Bullet Holes by Brad Smith.
I'm not familiar.
This is on Rocks Records as well.
Okay.
Brad was in the band in the 80s and 90s. Don't you hate when you get on camera and you get stupid?
Yeah.
Happens all the time.
That's like
I know. Anyhow, gosh, it was him and Louis Cardenas. Louis Cardenas plays on this too. Those two guys were in a Christian band that were together forever. The name will come to me. Rocks re-released all three of their albums recently, but anyhow, this is his new solo album, and it is fantastic. I mean, it is Black Label Society, that kind of heavy Southern tinged heavy metal stuff. That's what you get here. I'm trying to think of someone else that might sound like besides Black Label Society, but that's kind of the style it reminds me of. Not that they're a carbon copy whatsoever, but it's just in that in that range of music. So it's very heavy, but also very melodic, great guitar solos and fantastic vocals. It's a great album. So this is actually Rock's most recent release. And I did do the layout on this one too. I do most of the Rock stuff, but I did not do the album cover. I just cleaned up the album cover. He actually did the album cover, and I cleaned it up for him. And he asked me to put some minor little things in here. Like if you look at the bullet holes, you'll see some smoke coming out of the little hole right there.
Oh,
that's
cool.
Kind of stuff. I added that, and there's a scripture reference that's like carved into the skull's head, and I did that for him. Just minor stuff, but yeah, it's a good album. So if you're a fan of that southern tinged heavy metal like Black Label Society, Brand New Sin, that's another band they kind of sound like, then that's what this is. Let me do one more, or you may just shut up?
No, man, do one more. This is all really interesting stuff.
You can tell me to shut up anytime, because I'm a big old chatterbox. This one will be one of oh man, I didn't grab the right one. Hang on. I grabbed the wrong album. There it is. Sorry. Yeah, I had this. I thought I pulled the CD, but this is All for the King, and this is Darkest Before Dawn. You guys know this one?
Yeah, I bought that one this year.
I just started hearing about them.
Yeah.
This will be on my top 5, and when I do my top 30 of the year, I mix Christian and mainstream together, and this is a world-class release. I mean, it is that good. The vocalist sounds to me like a mixture of David Coverdale and Glenn Hughes. The guy can sing, and some of his highs, he hits that. They definitely remind me of Glenn Hughes. And musically, I put him on par with like 80s Black Sabbath. Very heavy, kind of slow and dirgy, but also very melodic. So this will be in my top 5, no doubt. It's just that good. I check them out. They're from Sweden. Yeah. This is like another. It's funny. I think everyone I showed was a Rocks release. I didn't mean to do that. But
I'm sure Bill doesn't mind.
Too. No, I'm sure. But yeah, this is a great album. This will be in my top 5, as will the new Motivic Renouncement. Now this is heavy. This is thrash. Pushing boundaries at times towards metalcore and death metal at times, but mostly, 2 feet planted in the thrash sound. The ear is melodic. There is singing on it. Guitar solos are otherworldly. This guy's just a great guitar player. So, and this one's on Rocks too. So it's
no
kind of
way.
funny that I'm showing all the Rock stuff. I think I just showed 5 Rocks releases.
Scott, you just mentioned tell me to shut up. But we're so interested in this. It's really been a good episode so far. And you remember the things that you do on the graphics, like on this album. I didn't even think about it, but you snuck in some like graphics of a snakeskin over top.
Yes.
You remember that really changed the whole. It made it go. And so I really appreciate the little stuff that you do. That's why I say, here's what I have. Do what you need to do.
Thank you.
So yeah, I appreciate
I definitely enjoy my job. I mean, my favorite part is actually doing the layouts and being creative. My least favorite part is the tedious text stuff I have to work with, but that's just part of the job, you know.
Right.
Going into lyrics and breaking up the lyrics and sending it to a proofreader, and he comes back with, here's 100 changes. I hate doing that. But you know, nobody likes doing that. But.
I'm a graphic artist too, but I don't have the experience that you have. So you do a good job taking what I come up with and making it even better. So
did you go to school for it, or are you self-taught, or?
I'm self-taught, but I did go to Career Line Tech Center and took advertising 1 and 2.
Oh, cool.
And it's really funny too, because the first night I was 20 minutes late and the teacher was so good. I was so, what do you call it? Intimidated. I was so intimidated. And I was like to myself in my head, while the other 15 students were there, I'm like, okay, I'll stay the rest of the night, but I'm not coming back. Well, I ended up coming back and I ended up being the teacher's pet and the best artist in the class. So
that's awesome.
That's awesome. So, but see what fear and not trusting God can do to us.
Mm-hmm.
So
So Scott, how you mentioned it, and that was one of the things I want to ask you was twofold. You know, how much do you love doing what you do, and then the second part is the opportunity you have to bring glory to the Lord through your art and all that.
I look at it like this when it comes to God, my Father. Let me tell you a story. This will kind of wrap it up. So my son, who is now in his 30s, and he has 3 of my 6 grandkids. He's been a drummer since he was, 5 or 6 years old. He started playing drums. So by the time he was 11, he was a very proficient drummer, you know, and we were going to a fairly large church. We had a really big youth group, and they didn't have a drummer for the youth worship team. So even though my son was just turning 12, he wasn't actually old enough to be in the youth group. He had to be a teenager, 13. They brought him on anyhow to let him play drums because they needed someone there. So he kind of got involved in the youth group a little bit early. Well, there would be a few times where my wife and I would skip the evening service and we'd go over and sit in the youth service because, well, first of all, we wanted to watch my son play drums. And so we just took part in the youth service rather than the regular service. Well, the one time, sorry, my dog is barking again.
Mailman's back. Mailman's back.
Out. Sorry, I usually lock my dogs out when I'm doing videos, but my wife is not home, and we have a brand new puppy that I got to keep an eye on because she chews everything. So anyhow, we're sitting in the youth service, and the worship band comes on, and they're playing, and I'm watching the worship team, and everybody's raising their hands and worshiping and doing their thing, and I wasn't, and I wasn't even really paying attention to the fact that I wasn't worshiping God. I was just fixated on my son, and watching him play, and I was just, and my wife looks over, and she goes, "What are you smiling about?" And I said, "What do you mean?" She goes, "You're smiling ear to ear." I said, "I'm just so proud of my son Josh up there playing drums." I said, "Look at him." And I heard clear as day from God, one of the few times where I knew God was speaking directly to me. And he said, "Now you know how I feel when you're up on stage."
Wow.
And I was like, okay, I get it now. And so from that point on, that was fairly early when I was playing with Ultimatum, it was like a revelation for me. I was like, because you know how it is with a band. You can play in front of 10 people, you can play in front of 1,000 people, depending on the venue and that kind of thing. And from that point on, I stopped caring about how many people were at our shows. And I told the band, we're going to start praying before each show. Lord, we don't care if you have one person here or thousands of people here. We're here for you. We want to make you proud. You are our Abba Father. You are the reason that we do what we do. So just be proud of what we're doing. That's what we want to do tonight. And if we can do that, and people can see that genuineness in you, you can affect, you can make changes to the world. You can affect people that way.
Yep.
And the other thing that we decided to do around that same time was we stopped playing the churches and started playing the clubs with secular bands or mainstream bands. And as we were growing in popularity, and especially in the 90s, we started opening up for bigger and bigger bands, that were traveling through town in the clubs. So what we decided to do was, let's help the bands that are touring. Let's help them unload their gear and reload their gear, and that kind of thing. Just be servants,
Yep.
And I am still friends with 90% of those bands to this day because of that. Because you were, like, we don't need to get up on stage and just and spend an hour of our, time preaching a message when we can live it and people can see it. That's going to be more effective than us getting up on stage and I'm going to share another story now. Storytelling. Ultimatum was, we got when we decided to start playing clubs, it was hard to get into the clubs because they were not interested in a Christian band. And, most clubs they want you to draw a crowd, right? Mm-hmm. And Christian aren't necessarily going to be going to a bar, which I understand. And we weren't asking the Christians to come. We weren't there for the Christians.
Exactly.
But we started getting, like I said, more and more popular, especially locally. And we got one of our first bar shows, and it was our gig, Ultimatum's gig. So we got two other bands to play with us. We got the Musketeers, which was a Christian band locally out of Calvary Chapel. And then we got a non-Christian band called Dark Truth that finished the show off. And this band was more popular than us, and they had killer gear. So that's, that it all worked. That's why we did it. So we got Musketeers gets up on stage, and I've seen them play a bazillion times. They're out of Calvary Chapel. They've opened for everybody in the world: Deliverance, Vengeance, Guardian, White Cross, all these different bands. They toured with Barren Cross and Messiah Prophets. They've been around forever. Well, he get over there. They play their show. In the middle of the show, the guitar player, singer Paul, who's also a Calvary Chapel pastor, starts preaching in the club, and I was used to that. I mean, I'd seen him a million times, and I've been to a million Christian shows. I'm used to hearing someone, give a message during their set.
Mm-hmm.
They finish their preaching. They go on. They play a few more songs. They get off stage. We get up. We do our set. We get off. We did fine. We get off stage, and Dark Truth gets up, and they play theirs. And at the end of the night, I go up to the club owner, and I said, "All right, everything's done. We had a great crowd." I said, "Can we get paid?" And he turns around and looks at me. He goes, "I shouldn't pay you a dime. I should punch you square in the face."
Wow.
He was angry. He was angry. And I'm like, I couldn't figure out why. So I said, "What's the problem? What's the matter?" He goes, "I hired you to entertain my patrons." He goes, "And you had that band open up for you that preached a message and was telling people not to buy my alcohol."
Oh.
And he goes, "That's not what I was paying you for." He goes, "I paid you to entertain my guests." And I was like, and I looked square at him. I said, "You know what? I'm sorry. You're correct." And we were wrong. That's when I realized, if we're going to be in this scene, we need to do it correctly. We need to get up there, and we obviously, if you know Ultimatum's lyrics, we definitely didn't back off from Christian topics and the Bible. But as far as me preaching, I stopped completely preaching, except for one time. Because I really felt God calling me to. Because I really felt God calling me to. But anyhow, I just felt like we can do this. God can work through us in other ways other than me opening my big mouth and telling people what to do. So we play our set. Like I said, we were getting more popular locally. We started getting in more and more clubs, and that's when we started doing the things like helping the opening bands. And ever since that time, I still get calls from different bands like Vindicator. They were one of the bands that were traveling through, and the guy texted me. He's like, "Hey man, I'm going through a lot of problems. Can you pray for me?"
Awesome.
Yeah. And then I come to find out the guy's father is a pastor, the guitar player in Vindicator. And then I come to find out that his father played in Christian bands back in the 80s and 90s. He had all this music that was never released. So Rox ended up putting out all his dad's music because it's really good hard rock and metal stuff he put out. So it's just, God can work in more than one way. You don't have to be a big mouth, is what I'm trying to say.
Didn't you have like conversations with people after shows too? And then
absolutely. Absolutely. Yep. And we always made ourselves available after the shows. We always had our merch table set up, and the whole band would come back behind the merch table, and we just talk to people. So there was that too. There was all kinds of things you could do.
So then you got to talk. You got to talk.
All you wanted. Mm-hmm.
Yep. And you still abided by your contract.
Exactly.
Yep.
So what was the response from the crowd? That first time you guys did that, and the pastor got up and preached in a secular venue like that.
I don't remember there being any issues. So I mean, there was quite a few people that were there to see us and the Musketeers and Dark Truth. So I think a lot of the people that were there were used to the Musketeers, and and the Calvary Chapel pastor, talking. So I don't remember anything being bad about it, but I mean, we were supposed to we were supposed to say, hey, tip your waitresses and your bartender. We were supposed to, those are the kind of things they were expecting us to say.
Right.
Yeah. So,
Not doing
but yeah, I don't think there was anything I don't remember anything negative from the crowd. I was honestly shocked when I walked up to the owner and he said that. I didn't expect that at all. So I had grown up, listening to Christian metal and Christian music and going to the churches and watching shows there. And so it was no big deal to me. That's why I always see every concert I've been to that was Christian was like that. So,
well, we were
I want to make a point.
Yeah.
When you found that out, which you were oblivious, it just kind of hit you like a brick. Instead of getting defensive and angry, it seems like you went to the Lord and you're like, you know what? We have to honor our contracts. There's other ways that we can preach you. Help us do that. Right?
Exactly. Yep. That's why we always prayed before every show. Every single show we ever did, we always prayed beforehand and we said, Lord, we want to make you proud. Work through us, do what you will through us. So yeah, it worked. And I could share a lot of really cool stories of stuff that I could share a lot of funny ones too. We had a lot of Spinal Tap moments, but we also had a lot of cool moments, And I literally had a girl who was such a big fan of the band, who had an abusive father, asked when she got married, asked if I would give her away at her wedding.
Oh, cool.
So that was an honor for me, So I'm glad that God can use, even someone like me who nobody knows in music that, like we played to reach people. So yeah, it's to me, it's humbling, and it should be humbling to most people. Fortunately, I think some people get their heads, swelling, and they start believing their own hype.
It's why we do the music for We Are Resolute, because a fan of ours, I call him a super fan, Robert Scott. He's a wrestler too. You know him on Facebook or not?
Yeah.
Okay. His dad was dying, so I sent him some unreleased music. And he said that his family was around his dad's bed and they were listening to music and they were really blessed by it, And the song Heaven, which was a poem my wife wrote when her mom died. And now my wife's dead, so each album's been dedicated to them. But anyway, I get a couple of weeks later, his dad dies, and then Scott messages me, and can I read the lyrics to Heaven at my dad's funeral? And I almost started crying. I mean, that's what we do this for.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Are you sure you're not doing it because you're a rich and famous rock star?
Oh yeah, I'm in debt. At least my house and car are paid for. So.
So yeah. I'll quickly share the one story where I did preach at a club. One of the other things that Ultimatum did was, because we were playing a lot of bars and clubs, and a lot of people would come to see us, but there was a lot of people there that had no idea who we were. They were just in the bar, or they were just coming to see a metal show. So what we decided to do was, we had been playing the song Burn by Vengeance Rising for years as part of our live set. Let's switch that song out. Let's pick a different cover song that other people know, and we'll get them into the band and listening to what we're doing, not just background music. So we started playing Iron Maiden's, what's the name of the song? Wrathchild. And if you know the song Wrathchild and know what the lyrics are about, it's basically for a guy whose father left him, and he's looking for his father because he wants to take wrath on his dad for leaving him, and that kind of thing. So we started playing that song, and we were at a club, and I just felt overwhelming God telling me to say something. So I preached a message about, hey, if your dad has left you, I said you don't have to search out in wrath to find the human that your human father, because you always have a heavenly father. So it was not a very long message. It was maybe 2-3 minutes long, a little longer now. But that was the only other time I ever preached in a club. And that's the only thing I really said, outside of that show where the Musketeers got us in a little bit of hot water. And I love the Musketeers. I mean, Paul Scazafaba is one of them. He was one of the Calvary pastors. He was a guitar player in the Musketeers. But let me share this about him too, because if you guys think about it, you can pray for him. He's got Parkinson's disease now. he's very deep into it. So he can't. He preached for several years at his church, even with the Parkinson's. He would take the medication to keep him, for a while, but he can't do anything anymore. He still plays guitar, but you would think he was a novice when the guy is a total shredder. But he doesn't give up. He still tries playing his guitar. So anyhow, yeah, pray for him. He's no longer a pastor because of the same thing. He can't preach. So unfortunately, he lives at his house, and I keep encouraging him to do what you guys and I'm doing. Get on the internet and share your story. You have such a powerful message about even through, even through the fact that he's suffering so badly, he still has a very strong faith in God. He hasn't given up on God. And I wonder if I was like him, if I was in the shape where I couldn't even get out of a chair for hours at a time, and I couldn't function, can't drive, can't do anything, would I still serve God like I do now? Would I still trust him like I do now? And so I think that's just awesome to see. And I keep telling him that. He goes, I used to preach to the churches. God was using me mightily. And I said, God's still using you, dude. He goes, yeah, but I used to preach. I used to be out there spreading the word. I'm like, you're still spreading the word, dude. I said, you're sitting in a chair. I'm sitting here talking to you. And I said, and I see you as a strong man of faith. I said, you're still encouraging people. So anyhow, so Paul Scott's father, if anybody's watching this and you know the Musketeers or you know Paul, he could definitely use some prayer. So sad story. Sorry.
And I love that you shared that, because I'm looking at us, and anybody tuning into this and just turning this on, they're not going to immediately think, oh, there's a Christian program. There's three Bible teachers or three servants of God. They're not going to know that from just our appearance, but they're going to know it from our words. They're going to hopefully know it from watching us live our lives and things like that. And that's really the heart of the message that I like to put out and talk about is look at us. God's using us according to his design for us. He's allowed us to experience life, go through things. Our personalities have developed because of the life that we've lived and the things that we enjoy and the hobbies that we love and the passions that we have. And he takes all of that and he uses it for his glory. And, and I say this all the time, the writers of the Gospels, the writers of the Scripture, it's God's breathed, it's God inspired, but their personalities are in the writing.
Right.
And so, if you're out there and you think, oh, I got to conform and I got to look like everybody else in my church and I got to, look like some kind of a Christian clone. No, man, be who God allows you to be and do the things that you love to do and do it for the Lord and use that to
absolutely
bring glory to our Father. It is the coolest thing.
Exactly.
I just realized this entire time that I didn't have my lights on.
Oh, it doesn't make a difference.
That's why I'm so dark.
I thought it was
I literally have my light right there that I use for doing my own show, and I never turned it on. Sorry.
Well, I didn't see a difference when you flipped it, so it looks fine. Looking good.
Yeah, now it's on.
No, if you're a true believer in Christ and you actually have the dwelling of the Holy Spirit and you've been sealed for the day of redemption, no matter what you go through, you can't leave Christ.
No, you can't. And the Bible actually says that that the Holy Spirit is given as what? The earnest of our salvation. Yep. I mean, that's exactly. And what is an earnest? It is a down deposit on your salvation. That Spirit is in you and is staying in you. I mean, you can grieve the Spirit. Obviously, the Bible talks about grieving the Spirit, but that Spirit is in you. And what does it also say? He says that, God will never leave you nor forsake you, right? So he's not going to leave you down when you're down. He's going to pick you up and move you on. So I agree. If once you have that Spirit inside of you, it changes a person. And
I've found that out over the last 4 years, because some of you guys know what I'm going through, but I had to make a choice. I'm either going to get really angry at God and hate him, or I'm going to turn into a vegetable, or do what I'm doing and just keep on going.
Yep. So. And this is another kind of a thought thing. I think about this kind of stuff all the time. It's like, so if you had decided instead to get really angry at God, I kind of think I think God understands that anger. He lived with us. He experienced what we experienced when he came down, as Jesus. So I think he understands our anger. I think it's a whole big different thing to be angry at God and not understand what God's doing in your life than saying, I want nothing to do with you anymore, God. You're, I don't
that's
believe
my
you.
point. Because
Yeah.
trust me, I went through all the emotions.
Yeah,
Sure.
and
I'm sure
I'll
you
tell,
did. Yeah.
and I've talked to people, and in pastoral counseling and stuff, and it's like, be honest. If you're angry with God, He knows.
Yeah.
He knows. Don't pretend you're not.
There's no reason to hide it.
Yeah.
Nope.
Work
Do it
through
respectfully, though.
Yeah, work through it.
Yep.
Pray through it. Don't give up. Don't give up on God.
Exactly.
But if you're a little angry about something, be honest about it and walk through it. You know, because we're, as everybody that's ever been in a family, you've gotten angry at somebody that you love, and they've been angry with you. And what do? You walk through it and you get past it.
I haven't been mad at Scott yet. So you want to try and catch up on something? Just kidding.
I mean, it is. I mean, it literally is like a marriage. I mean, the Bible describes us as the bride of Christ, right? We are His church, so it's just like a marriage. I mean, I've been married for 36 years now, and with my wife for 41 years, I believe.
Okay.
So we were, boyfriend and girlfriend for 6 years. So, and of course, we have had our spats over the years, but I can't imagine my life without her. And I know you just lost your wife, but so I always wondered to myself, if I went through a time where my wife passed or something like that, what would I do? So I really try to be understanding of people like your wife passed and you didn't give up on God. I have a very, very close friend who plays in a Christian band whose wife passed away from cancer at a young age in her 30s. And he took a different path. He got very upset, but I didn't like, okay, well, I can't hang out with you. Oh, I'm going to judge you. Oh, you can't be friends. No. You're still my closest best friend, man.
Yep.
God's working on you. And amazingly, this happened almost 10 years ago. Just 2-3 weeks ago, I got a text from him. He goes, dude, you're not going to believe what happened to me. I'm like, what's up, dude? And he's like, God did an honest revival in my heart. He goes, I'm back in the church again. He goes, God's working on me.
Nice.
Wow, I was like so excited because you know what I mean? It's just, you don't. So anyhow, people, you got to understand, people go through things and sometimes they get angry and you got to just deal with it and get through it. So
I always talk about God's permissive will, and the root word there is He permits things to happen. And each person goes through a different valley, and they're longer or shorter than other people. We can't sit here and go, well, he's been doing X for 10 years. Pray for the dude. Have him over for coffee. Love him or her or whatever in the love of Christ, because you never know when God's gonna,
that story is a perfect example. Was it 10 years this dude was struggling through things, and now he's back. So we all have people in our lives that we are praying for or concerned about, and the key is don't give up.
Nope.
Agreed. Cool. So, anything else you want to discuss?
No, that's about it. I think this was a fun episode, and
this was great.
We got to hear a lot of cool stuff that I didn't realize that you were that busy. I know you said you were busy and all that stuff, so sorry if I bugged you with messages.
No, you're good. I mean, there's not a problem with that at all. So it's just how it works. I'll quickly explain it. When I have so many jobs, especially like Rocks, I do all their jobs. So he basically says, I want this, and this, so that I'll have an artist like yourself, like, dude, where's my artwork at? Where's my artwork at? I'm like, man, I feel guilty because I'm like, I want to work on it and get it done, but I got to get this one done first, and then I've got to get the other label stuff in as well. So, and then I also do side jobs. So I just got a job from a lawyer's office. I'm doing their yearly calendar for them. So, I stay pretty busy, which is nice. I don't get rich off it by any stretch of the imagination, but I enjoy what I do, which is nice.
You pay your bills, right?
My wife pays my bills, and I am the extra. Yeah. My wife works for Bank of America. So for the first 3/4 of our marriage, I was the one making most of the money because she was a stay-home mom with our kids, and then and then now she's the one who makes the money, and I mean I make some money, but she makes the most of the money, and so she pays the bills now, and I do this. So, yeah.
So with We Are Resolute, at least we know that you've got all the things you need, and then the music's ready to send to Bill when he wants it, and we're going to release in February. So that's pretty cool. I'm excited now.
Right on. And you got, what's the name of the guy who mastered your project?
Garrett Thomas.
Thank you, Garrett. Just make sure he gets a DDP file for us in the end.
Yep, he just asked me if I wanted him to send the DDP file.
Yep.
Which I just learned that, so as you can tell.
Yep.
No, this is really exciting, dude, because I'm glad God made us push to the next year, because if we released it last month, we wouldn't have that much time to be on a top 10 list or whatever, to be interviewed. There wouldn't really be a focus, be like kind of a last second thing and no big deal. So this way we get to start the new year. We have a whole year to get on people's mind and stuff like that. So I think it'd be better for promotion. So
yeah, I think Rox has no more releases coming out this year.
Nope.
Which is pretty normal for him every year.
Well, the holidays.
That's exactly what it is.
Yep.
You think that new releases would do really well around the holidays? Nope, they get buried. So, yeah.
Yeah, I can't wait for Rox.
Wait until January, February. Yep.
I can't wait for Bill to send me the 2 copies of that Christmas thing, because we're on it for the first time.
I think I have it sitting right here. I was just listening to it.
Did you listen to Deck the Halls by us?
I listened to the whole thing.
Yeah.
It sounded good to me. There's a couple of songs on there that are like, wow. I don't know. I had it here a second ago. Now I don't know what I did with it. But it's a Simpsons. It's basically a Simpsons cover.
Yeah.
On that thing. It's been a
Is
Simpsons
that you
cover
and
for
Bill?
the last. That's me and Bill.
Yeah, I thought so.
Simpsons characters. It's the same. It's the same figure on the front of him and I for the last 3 editions, and the background changes to a different Simpsons background.
Okay.
Yeah, it's kind of just Bill's thing. But yeah, I just had that. What the heck did I do with it? So much. I'm telling you, my desk is a disaster area at the moment because I had so much work. Not that it's bad, but anyhow, yeah, it's good. And it's only a few dollars if anybody's interested. It's at roxrecords.com, and We Are Resolutes on it, and it's just packed with Christmas songs.
It's just so everybody knows, I'm self-taught, and I write my own songs because I haven't been able to or teach because I didn't pick up a guitar until I was 35. So I write my own stuff, so I feel I'm in a comfortable spot. When I try to do other people's stuff, I really can't. Like, other guitarists can sit down like Troy and just play everything on the planet. I mean, that guy's so good. So when you hear our song Deck the Halls, just appreciate that I was able to do it in the first place.
Yeah, it was very good. I thought the whole album was really good. But yeah, there's like a death metal one on there, death metal Christmas song, and there's all kinds of stuff on there. It's fantastic. It's really a fun listen. So
yeah, I can't wait to listen to it. So Bill, give me those copies.
Yeah, and he also just put out the Preachers of the Underground compilation that you're on.
Oh, the what?
Preachers of the Underground.
And we're on it?
I believe so.
Boy, look at you, man.
Woohoo!
Yeah, he does. Every year he does a compilation at the end of the year that he gives most of them away. So that usually doesn't send them to the artists because he only pressed like 300 of them. But then he has this big Black Friday sale, and he ships them to all the people that order from the Black Friday sale. So they're usually gone that Black Friday weekend. But it's just an easy way to get the music into the hands of people who may not have heard it before. So
are they gone, or do you have an extra copy? Because I would like that.
Hang on, I'll check for you in 5 seconds.
Okay.
I don't have any copies, but yeah, I don't have any copies myself. Yeah, he's got a few copies online for $4. I just looked.
Then I'll just go ahead and buy one. I'll just go ahead and buy one and support him for helping us.
Yeah, let me make sure that I didn't lie to you about you being on it, but I'm pretty sure I remember you being on it. See, Motivic, Testimony, Apocalypse, Transcendence, Saint, All for the Kill, Shining Force, Lord Chain, Motivic, Transcendent, Swingle, Thomas Thompson, Earth Project, Rainforce. I'm wrong. You are not on this one. You must have been on the one from last year. You must have been on the one from last year.
I've got one in my car that we're on.
That's probably because this is volume 2, so you probably 3, so you either have 1 or 2.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not on there. Sorry.
Oh, it's okay.
Let me look at while I'm in here, and the Christmas CD has All for the King. They do God Rest You Merry Gentlemen. Chris Manning, Craig Phillips and Kevin Pike. Damascus, which is that prog band I showed you, they recorded a song just for it. Mangled Carpenter, which is the song I was talking about. Puddle Glum, which is just a melodic rock band. Pulpit Vomit do Jingle Jingle Jimble. Reptilian does Deck the Halls, a new version. Silence the Burden with Dave Cruz does Angels We Have Heard on High. The Blamed do Reason for the Season, and it's REES because I can't remember the guy's name. Sings the song. Reese, he's some famous metal guy, and I can't remember his name, of course. Thomas Thompson, the Earth Project, A Haunting Christmas. Thorns Inside with 'Tis the Season to Rock and Roll. We Are Resolute with Deck the Halls. Weapons of God with To Everybody Who Hates Christmas Music. And Wretched Grave Robber, I Saw Mommy Kissing Santa Claus.
It's a fun one. I'm glad we got to get on it this time. So we should wrap it up. We're doing pretty good. It's almost quarter after. So
yeah. Right on. I just heard my wife come in anyhow, so I don't have to help her bring groceries in. But
well, thank you very much for being our very first guest on Road Less Traveled. It was really fun.
Oh, I didn't even realize it was the first one. That's awesome. Thanks for having me on.
We've done 7 episodes, just us, and so you're the first time we've trekked into the guest world. So we're really
right on.
excited.
I appreciate it.
Yeah,
you are a very good guinea pig.
Thanks. I've done tons of them with artists, and some artists are gabby like me and can talk forever. Some artists will give you 2 and 3 word answers, and you're like, so yeah, it just depends on the artist,
Paul and I can do this too, so it was kind of interesting that I had to kind of be stifled today, but it was good.
Yeah, this was really good, and you kind of set the bar now for our next guests. So
thanks.
Which is going to be Dave Cruz next Saturday.
Dave is awesome. Dave actually, one more story. Dave Cruz was a huge Ultimatum fan. He came to every show we did back when he lived in New Mexico, and any club we played at. That show that I talked about where I shared the story with the Iron Maiden track, Dave was there, and I believe it was he who I was talking to who said something about his dad that got me to thinking about it. And then when I got on stage, I felt God really called me to say something at that point, and I did. So, but yeah, Dave is a really good friend of mine, and Dave actually works for Rocks Records as well.
Yep, he's made a few of our videos.
Yeah, he does lyric videos, and he actually runs the Rocks YouTube channel.
Cool.
So nice. Yeah, I got to meet him at Immortal Fest last year, so that was really cool.
Right on.
Well, Paul, close us out with some wisdom.
Hey, again, like we were talking about this, we are who God's allowed us to be, doing the things that we love for the glory of the Lord. So, take your marching orders from God. Don't let some person try to tell you what your faith should look like or your service should look like. Be open to what God, the Spirit of God in you, is focusing you towards, and I tell you what, you'll have a blast doing it.
Oh yeah. Yep.
And definitely look to him through the darker times in your life, because those darker times are going to prove your faith not only to others but to yourself.
Big time.
Yep. I almost died in 2015. I was in the hospital, and the doctors kept saying, you could drop it any minute. You could drop it any minute.
Wow.
My wife was there the whole time. She would never leave my side. And they kept saying, you're going to drop. And I was just sitting on the bed, Indian style, sitting up. And the doctor kept telling me that. And I'm like, okay. And at one point, the doctor asked me, he's like, why do you not care? You're not upset by this? I'm like, no. I said, if God takes me, he takes me. If he wants me to stay, he'll leave me here. And
what you just said was, for me to live is Christ and to die is gain.
Yes,
exactly. And then he could come back a few more times afterwards, and you need to be careful. You could drop it any minute. And my wife finally said, would you shut up? He's not going anywhere. And that was the last time they said it. So anyhow, right on. Well, I appreciate you guys having me on.
Yeah, thank you for doing this. This was really cool. We did not know how it was going to go, so it went the way it went, and it was really fun.
Yeah, I thought it was awesome. So thank you guys.
Yep. I'll keep in contact with you, Scott, to see how the process is going and all that kind of stuff.
You got it. Talk to you soon.
All right. Cool. God bless you guys.
See ya.